2020 meeting of the Kingston Zoning Board of Adjustment. I'll introduce my colleagues to you. To my far right is Jackie Leone, Peter Coffin, our Vice Chair Larry Greenbaum. To my immediate right, to my far left is Richard Johnson, and our Secretary is Susan Eyre, and I'm Ellie Alessio. I'm your Chair. First order of business would be to approve the minutes from the July meeting.
I'll move that we approve the minutes as written and email. Second.
Okay. Any discussion, any corrections or errors or omissions? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. We have to wait till 7:05 before we bring up the first petitioner, because that's the date specified on the notice. Is there anything that the board wanted to discuss? I did work with Ellen Faulkner. Gentlemen in the back, I'm going to ask you to, if you want to chat, you need to go out, because the acoustics are so bad in here that I really can hear you, believe it or not. So thank you very much. Ellen helped me put together a new process for ZBA application that kind of describes what every step of the way is. She did a really terrific job, and I appreciate her efforts. So I'm going to go through it, make some changes, and then I'll distribute a copy to each of you to take a look at. You can tweak it as you wish. It's our document to work with. We stole some of the information from Plastoc, because they had a pretty concise process. So that's in the works. I don't know of anything else that might be coming up before us. No? Give it a couple of minutes. I put in the same budget for the ZBA for next year. I mean, it's hard to say. Yeah, we missed a few meetings this year. So that was easy enough. And I bet we see more Zoom meetings, Zoom workshops maybe coming down the pipe, so that should be good. Peter, anything that you can think of that you wanted to?
No, not for this board.
Okay, just thought I'd throw it.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Rob Healy is first up. Is Rob here? There he is. Now I can tell. I didn't know it was you behind that mask. I might have yelled at you a little bit. Come on up. Have a seat right down in here. Okay, I'm going to read the legal notice for you. This is regarding the 34 Church Street, Kingston, New Hampshire, tax map R30, lot 10. This is a public hearing whereby the applicant seeks a variance from the terms of Article 104, Section 5C of the Town of Kingston zoning ordinance, and asks that said terms be waived to construct a 2,490 square foot retail building on the property, thereby adding a second building at that location. And you want to tell us who this gentleman is here?
Wayne Morrow from Jones and Beach.
Jones and Beach?
Yes.
Okay, and that's, you are Mr. Rob Healy, yeah. Okay, the way it works, Rob, you tell us why you want us to grant you this variance. You kind of explain what you're doing, what you propose to do on the site, what your experience was at the planning board, you know, how that impacted what they suggested you do or not do. And then we'll open it up for comments from the audience, pro and con, and questions from the board. And you'll have an opportunity to address any of the issues that are raised.
Okay, great.
Okay?
Right. So, good evening. Members of the board, my name is Wayne Morrow from Jones Beach Engineers. We brought this project in front of the planning board at a design review back on August 18th. We met with your town planner back in January when we first started this project, and then because of COVID and having a couple different things happen, it's taken
You were the first ones to get caught up in that March, April.
Yeah, we waited 3 months to be told that we had the wrong application, and then we had to go to the planning board. So it's been about 6.5 months to finally come and see you guys. So we appreciate your time tonight. So this piece of property is Church Street Station. It's It's a 2.55 acre site. It currently has a commercial strip development in the front with a parking lot that is directly out onto Church Street. And then there's a self-storage building that runs along the side that's for the different tenants inside of that building. When the owner of this property bought the piece of property, the plan that was given to him, that was the plan of record that's been recorded at the Registry of Deeds, was actually showing the mall, the existing storage, and then about 21,000 square feet of self-storage units that were originally approved back in 1988 on this piece of property. And that's why we met with Glenn Greenwood, because we were trying to find out if there was any grandfathering of that approval or if we had to start from scratch, and what we were told was that basically went away because we didn't keep on renewing that approval year after year. So what we did is we talked with Glenn about adding a structure that was less than 2,500 square feet. What you're seeing tonight is on the back side of the property, we're proposing to construct a 2,490 square foot commercial building. And so this building would be for uses like either an electrician or we're trying to do a metal frame building that somebody maybe from Kingston, a local person that has a business that is no longer too big to stay at his house, but to work out of a commercial type of establishment, to be able to have a structure that they could use for their business. There is no new curb cuts out onto the roadway. The impact is the well and septic are existent on the site. We would have to go through and get an amended septic system if this goes forward. And part of the property is encumbered by a parking lot that is used by the Veterans Club. So right now the site is just a grassed area in there. There's some trees in the back, which abuts the Kingston Cemetery in the back. So we have the Vets Club on the north, we have the cemetery to our west, we have a residential house to our south, and then we have Church Street and the ball fields across the street. So we feel it's a good use to be able to add additional infrastructure onto this lot and still not really have an impact to the surrounding areas. So we did answer the 5 questions that is part of the application for the variance. And if you'd like, I can go through our responses to those questions.
You could do a synopsis of them, each one, if you want to.
Okay.
Yeah, we all have a copy of that, but if you want to briefly go through that, you're welcome.
Okay, great.
For the benefit of the audience or anyone watching it from home.
Sure. A lot of what I've just went through is basically a lot of our answers. You know, the building is located on the intersection of Chase Street and Church Street. Several businesses in the area that are all clustered together. Given the small uses in close proximity to the businesses on the parcel in question, no detrimental impacts listed are anticipated. We'll be using the existing curb cuts of Church Street. In talking with the planning board, we'll be going through and looking at drainage, make sure that we infiltrate and recharge the water aquifer. And we learned a few things about some of the operations of the existing commercial uses in there, that we might have to do a drive lane around the back because the thrift store has a drop-off area in the rear. So with this addition, we would be doing some minor changes to the site to bring it into compliance with the town's regulations. Again, the services on the lot, it's a existing well, an existing septic system, so there is no impact to services to the town. Like I said, the building would be a metal prefab building, so it would not be a wood structure. So, and there will be no hazardous or toxic materials stored in this building. It will be just either a contractor's building, or additional commercial space. And that's basically our presentation for tonight. If there's any questions, we'll try to answer them.
Let's see if there's anyone from the audience. I know there's two people standing. We've got a couple more chairs over here if you'd like to sit down. Okay. All right. That's fine. I just wanted you to know you had an opportunity because we can move some chairs around and keep the distance and all that good stuff. Okay, but I do ask that you come to the microphone over here to speak, anyone that does. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in support of this project? Is there anyone that's here that would like to speak in opposition to this project? Okay. All right. Questions from the board?
Yes.
Mr. Greenbaum.
You said that Veterans Club has use of the parking area, or is it their parking area?
So, what I'm showing in color is actually the land for the Church Street landing. So, this parking that's on the piece of property is actually, the Veterans Club uses that. And so it is parked on this piece of property, but it's been there for a long time, so, yeah.
Well, I went up and looked at the property, that's why I was asking, because
It looks like it's.
It's your
Yeah.
parking, but the Vets Club uses it.
Yeah, I guess, I guess.
Well, is it your land?
Yeah, it's Christopher, yeah, his land, but the Veteran Club does get the park there, and I believe that they always have, and I don't think that we're gonna change that.
okay. And in the storage building, you said there were 4 tenants.
So there's a storage unit that runs along the southerly part of the boundary. So each one of the tenants inside the church building along Church Street has a unit for storage and everything. So each one has like a garage door, and they have a storage unit that goes along with their unit.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, so it's not rented outside.
I misunderstood what you were saying.
Yeah,
So it belongs to the tenants in the strip mall facing Church Street.
exactly right. So each one of those tenants has a unit, and then I believe the restaurant, the pizza place has 2 because it's got a larger space.
I don't think most people in town even knew you had storage units back there, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because it's not rented out to people, it's
Right,
one of the units.
exactly correct. That's exactly correct.
Are the storage units part of, owned by the same, is it all one parcel of land?
It is,
Okay.
yeah.
So currently there are 2 buildings on site, the building that has the storage units and the retail space.
That long strip of,
And that's 6,000 feet for the retail, and how much for the storage units?
I believe it's 900 for the storage units.
So 6,900 square feet?
I believe when you add it all up, I believe it's 6,400. Is it 6,400 is the retail space?
Yeah, I think Robert Stewart had said, I was trying to
Yes.
figure out.
Okay.
That was Mr. Stewart's letter.
Okay, yep.
Okay, so it wasn't the retail space was 6,400, it's this retail
Including the
plus,
storage.
including storage, okay.
That's
thank you.
correct. Yep.
But, and, so it's obviously a non-conforming pre-existing use.
Right, in the residential zone, it is a non-conforming.
And it's non-conforming because residential district only allows a total of 2,500 square feet.
Exactly right.
And you wanna, so right now you've got, about 4,000 feet more than permitted, than what would be conforming. And you wanna add another 2,500, which is,
So, yeah, so the maximum allowed is the 2,500. We have an existing building at 64, so we're over the existing.
right.
That's a non-conforming building up front.
So
So
this
we're asking
more
them-
non-conforming, significantly more non-conforming
Yeah, it's
total amount of actual conforming.
yeah, it's an increase to the non-conforming use on the property.
And you're in Aquifer Protected District A,
That's
and
correct.
that's a maximum of 15% of lot coverage, allowable up to 35% with the, by the planning board, you can all the way up to 35%, with, as you described it, the infiltration systems, stormwater, and so what is your, projected, lot coverage area?
So when we met with Glenn, he told us that the maximum would be 25% with no infiltration, and then the
Yes, no, 15 is the A. Yeah, he may have been looking at B. But anyways, it's 35% of the, so here
The
we go.
question is, when you met with the planning board, was your percentage of lot coverage within the normal regulatory coverage?
So today, as a site currently sits, we're at 37% coverage today.
Okay.
With the addition of what we're showing, we would be at 45% coverage. So we had been told by the planner that it was a 25 and then 60%. So 25 would be the maximum without any infiltration, and it would have been 60 with infiltration.
By infiltration, you mean water permeating correctly?
Yeah, infiltration.
Drainage.
Built
Drainage.
system that you would allow it to go.
Right.
Okay.
So, yeah, so.
So, yeah, so you wouldn't be conforming to the 60%
No,
within
not
that
60%.
purpose?
There's no 60%, this is 15% up.
Correct, sorry,
up to,
I apologize. 50.
up to 35%,
Right.
and they're in zone A. That's why I was asking about the maps, and we got the map here, you're very different in zone A. Oh, wait a sec. It's 125, sea level.
They've already been to the planning board, Peter, that should have been vetted there, I believe, wasn't
I
it?
don't think so, they just came, I believe I had to turn off on that one because I recused myself of it. Okay, so let's say zone B, it's a little bit clearer here, but, so zone B would be maximum lot coverage of 25%, as you said, up to 35%, and in zone B, lot coverage up to 60%. Okay, that was a 2019 change, I guess.
You're going to confuse me. If you go to your own minutes from the planning board,
Yeah.
It
Oh,
says-
sorry, I didn't see that.
yeah, and it clearly states, you can tell that the current impervious surface amount was 37% without any treatment on site. Mr. Morrow said that the impervious surface would increase to 46%, but he would do improvements to the site and fix the puddling in the parking lot and add in infiltration basins to address any impact to the site due to the additions.
Okay. well,
That
they
was
should-
straight out of the minutes from the planning board.
Okay, so that's what I'm to deal with.
Right.
So that's why I'm wondering if he needed a variance for that, but it's,
No, we've got to give him variance for, if we approve it, we will grant him the ability to put up to 2,490 square foot or 2,500 square feet. He still has to go through they still have to go through the permitting process. They will still have to get a building permit.
oh, yeah, I understand that.
All that stuff still stays in place. It's just whether or not they could increase the lot coverage on that property. That's really what we would be granting a variance on. Now that and you're talking 2,500 square, are you gonna have separate offices? I mean, I know you're talking, construction space, but a lot of
That was gonna be
contractors.
my question too, like, are you envisioning offices, are you envisioning bays, works,
Is it gonna look like the, storage units just without
It'll be very
doors?
similar to like the storage unit, like in front of the building, we have no parking, and we have a 30-foot drive lane, so that a contractor, somebody could back their car so if somebody had like a glass shop and they had a truck that they wanted to pull in every night, they'd be able to pull their car in, have it in a safe spot, electrician be able to pull them in. So we have very minimal amount of parking because it's not gonna be one of those kind of businesses where people are gonna go there for goods. This is more of a thing for local contractors or local small businesses to be able to have a storefront to be able to operate their business. And just so I clarify the thing about the drainage and everything, so when we walk out there, currently there is no infiltration at all. There's pond and water in the front on the parking lot. There's a lot of things that we can do, and so working with Rob, is we move forward, we'll be putting in catch basins and infiltration basins to be able to make sure that we collect any oils or anything coming off that parking lot, catch those, and then go into an infiltration basin after to be able to get clean water back into your aquifer. And any development that we do in the back, those will all be directed into infiltration basins so that any additional impact, including what's over the coverage limit right now, will all be infiltrated into the ground, which will be a big increase from what you're seeing today.
Further questions from the board?
Pretty much understand everything he's looking for.
You understand what he's looking for? Yeah. Questions, further questions from the audience? Yes, sir. Mr. Trabucco, would you come to the microphone? This is Paul Trabucco.
I
There's a
just want to
microphone.
make sure, I'm here actually representing the Veterans Club.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to see the plan so I can
Tell them what's going
those
on.
people what's going on and if it's gonna, have any effect on the parking. That's basically my question. So what I heard earlier was it's really not gonna have too much effect on the parking. Is the driveway coming in? Can I come over here and look at this?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so we're coming in the driveway on the south side of the existing
So
building.
you're coming in, this is this.
Get a flip it
That's
around.
the white on the top. Yep,
Okay, so you're gonna come in over here.
yep. So there is no impact to the Vets Club at all.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure so I can convey that.
Yep.
All right. I'm all clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Trabucco. Okay. Anything else?
No?
All right. I assume you're ready for the question then. Do you have anything you wanted to add before we take action on this? I know we saw, I did happen to see a copy of a letter from a neighbor, Mr. Lambert, that was addressed to the planning board, and I would assume some of those issues would be addressed through the planning board as appropriate. Okay, I'll take one of the, I think we did them orally last time, and if you guys have no objection, I'll do the same thing again tonight, and so you'll have, I just need one, Susan. Yeah, that'd be great, thank you. This is property located at 34 Church. R30, Lot 10. And it's a variance for 104.5C. Okay, question one. After reviewing the petition and after hearing all the evidence and by taking into consideration the personal knowledge of the property in question, Kingston Board of Adjustment has determined the following. Number one, will there be a diminution in value of surrounding properties as a result of granting this variance? No, no,
I don't
I'm gonna
believe
say
so.
no, I can't
no,
see that.
okay. Will the granting of this variance be of benefit to the public interest?
I can't see where it would.
Oh.
I'm saying no.
You say no?
No, it's such an incredible increase in non-conforming use that.
Okay. Will little enforcement of the zoning ordinance result in an unnecessary hardship? Yes or no?
I'm gonna say no because, it's, again, for the same reason, it's such an increase in non-conforming use that, it's not a hardship to not be able to go from 3 times to 4 times the amount of coverage area that's allowed. So, you knew the restrictions on the property, and that had already been exceeded, and I just don't see it's a benefit to, that it's a hardship to not be able to go more non-conforming. We have a sort of a saying that once you're non-conforming, really don't like to make things more non-conforming.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Anyone else? Okay, so we have 4-1 on that. Will substantial justice be done if this variance is granted? Will substantial justice be done if the variance is granted?
I believe so.
I'm gonna say no,
Okay,
same reason.
same as, I'm glad you're consistent, Peter.
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense.
And the final one, will the use contemplated by the petitioner as a result of obtaining this variance be contrary to the spirit of the ordinance, yes or no? Contrary to the spirit of the ordinance.
It has to be contrary to the spirit of the ordinance, is why the ordinance exists with a 2,500-foot total square foot requirement. I mean, and then you're going to 8,500 square feet, or almost 9,000 square feet.
I don't see it being contrary.
I don't see that either. I mean, we didn't
What's
even
this-
know the storage units
what-
were back there for the last 25 years.
Right, but that would have been contrary to it, so.
Never mind the parking for the Vets Club.
I mean, that expired, well, the parking for the Vets Club is something they voluntarily give, but that's not the building area, it has nothing to do with the total building area.
Well, it
statement
does
is
have something to do with the
what-
building area because it has everything to do with lot coverage.
Lot coverage, but not the building area. So my question is, why did you, because the total building area, the 2,500 square feet, is not based on the size of the lot. The lot's only 2.5 square acres, but if you had a 10-acre lot, you'd still have a 2,500 square foot area that was allowed in the rural residential zone. So it's not a lot coverage area, that's addressed separately. Perhaps you could explain what the intent of that 2,500 square foot maximum is, and if that intent wasn't to limit the total area of the buildings in a rural residential area, commercial buildings, then what was the intent?
I'm not gonna take the time to, it's not my opinion.
Okay, so
I'm not gonna
but-
explain,
but-
I don't, I
But the
personally,
ordinance specifically limits rural residential to 2,500 square feet, regardless of the size of the lot. You agree to that, yes?
I agree that,
Yeah,
okay.
okay,
I
so there must have been an
understand where you're
intent for
coming
that.
The difference at this point is it gonna have an impact?
An adverse impact.
Well, the question before us is it consistent with the intent of the ordinance? So you have to know the intent of the
Well,
ordinance.
The
to-
thing
to
is,
limit.
that's what we're here to decide.
Right, so
if
I'm
we
asking,
feel it's
if you
not
can explain to me
contrary-
what the intent of the ordinance was.
Well, he
if it
doesn't
wasn't
have to
to-
explain to you.
Well, I understand that, but
You can
but
disagree with us.
I'm giving you an explanation as to the intent of the ordinance is to limit to 2,500 square feet. It's already 6,400 square
Okay.
feet.
And I'm gonna short it by saying every rule has a right to be broken. Some more so than others. I guess that's how I feel.
Okay.
I don't see another 2,500 feet added to this property would adversely impact the area. I don't see it as adversely impacting
Right, that's
the
the
intent. I mean, the intent was to confine some additional retail space on Church Street. That was the intent when that was approved back 40 years, 30 years ago, whenever with that lot, when the
Well, that's actually all the rural residential towns, so.
I would further say that I believe that the intent also is to bring business and revenue into the community, to build up the community. So I
Right.
think that's the intent, so I would absolutely not think that adding the additional square footage would be
Okay.
hurtful or not,
Okay.
true to the intent of
Looks
the ordinance.
I think that's this particular ordinance. The
We
only
can
intent
agree to
is-
disagree, Peter.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, all 5 variance criteria have passed, and so what is your pleasure?
I move we grant the variance requested for up to 2,500 square feet at 34 Church Street, tax map 30 lot 10.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion on the granting of the variance? Of course, that goes without saying that you would still be required to get all the necessary permits and all that good stuff that goes with it. All those in favor of granting the variance, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No.
The ayes have it, your variance has been granted. As you know, especially Mr. Moore will know that you have to wait 30 days in case someone presents something new for the board to reconsider its decision, but other than that, good luck. And happy growth on Church Street.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you for being patient in this long process for you guys.
It's all good.
It's all good, it's exactly correct.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll see you later. Okay, next petitioner is Mr. and Mrs. Barry Dale Phillips from Elliott, Maine, formerly of Kingston, regarding 19 Farm Road, tax map R39 lot 12. You're welcome to come right up here, Mr. and Mrs. Phillips. This is a public hearing whereby the applicant seeks a variance in terms of Article 3011 of the Town of Kingston zoning ordinance and asks that terms be waived to construct a single-family house. Have a seat, welcome.
Thank you.
Nice to see you guys. And if you, I think you were here when we started, the drill is that you would tell us why you want us to grant you the variance, why you want to build a house on this particular lot. And then we'll open it up to the floor for questions from the audience, either in favor or against, and then speak with the board. And again, you will have an opportunity to address any of the concerns and issues that were raised. Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Phillips, please begin.
We've owned the property on 19 Farm Road for almost 30 years. It's been in current use. It's 31 acres. It has 300 feet on the Little River, which is the Exeter watershed. We've been in Kingston, we lived in Kingston for 40 years. We moved to Elliott, Maine, and looks like we're coming back. Hopefully. What we want to do is take a portion of the land out of current use and build a single-family home and perhaps a separate garage. We were denied a building permit because it's a Class 6 road. There are other properties beyond our property that are serviced by the road today, and the town has agreed to allow that. We have more than enough frontage on the Class 6 road. We've lived on dirt roads here in Kingston for quite a while, so we're familiar with that. There's quite a few abutters. There's most of the land is on the northern border of Kingston on South Road, so there's probably 10 abutters from Brentwood. I don't know, they were notified. And I think that's about it.
Well, the problem is it's on a Class 6 road. That's the issue.
The problem is it's a Class 6 road. There was an agreement, I think that there's a Mr. Anderson today, he might even be here, that had an agreement with the town for years. Astor Day built the house in 1980, 81 or so. Yeah, I'm just saying that.
Yeah.
You know. And at that time, it was the town approved that they could come and go as they pleased. It's presently paved right up until almost our land. And, you know, we don't have a problem, you know, we have four-wheel drives. We've been, you know, through this all before, so and none of that is a problem for us. There's electricity there, there's everything else. It's certainly a hardship not to have a homestead there. 31 acres, it's beautiful land. If it can't be, it's rural residential. Many things could go in there. We looking at minimum impact. I was on the Conservation Commission here for 20 years. We're not gonna tear up the place. And so what we're looking for is to pursue that. I don't know if you're familiar with the land. It's off of Little River Road. It's on the northwest,
Yeah, I know what
northeast
Farm
corner
Road
of
is.
Kingston. It's pretty rural.
This is not your first time coming before the zoning board to get permission to build there, is that correct?
Yeah, we've never done this before. I've been promising Gail for 20 years that we're gonna build there, but, you know.
The fact that someone built a house there 40 years ago is not gonna cut it, though, I'll be honest with you.
Excuse
The
me?
fact that Mrs. Day built a house back there in 1980, it's 40,
1963, actually.
Yeah.
whatever, okay, even further back, so that's a long ways to go. In the letter denial from Mr. Stewart, who was our building inspector, It says that every building lot shall have a minimum contiguous frontage of 200 feet on a public right-of-way. This frontage shall provide access to the lot. The term public right-of-way for the purpose of this ordinance shall be limited to those highways which qualify as Class 1 through Class 5 highways under the provisions of New Hampshire RSA 229:5, and shall contain a minimum area of 80,000 square feet, unless the land is subject to zoning district-specific requirements that may differ from those enumerated. I also had talked to the town planner, Glenn Greenwood, and asked him, I said, what is that RSA from the state of New Hampshire? How does that impact this land? And he said to us, the section called out in the ordinance requires buildings to be erected on land with frontage upon roadways classified as being 1 through 5. The subject property is located on a roadway classified as Class 6. I do not believe the ZBA has the right to grant a variance of this nature. State law, RSA 674:41, outlines the process by which a building permit may be issued for property located on a Class 6 roadway. As found in RSA 674:41(1)(c), a building permit for property located on a Class 6 roadway requires that the local governing body, after review and comment by the planning board, has voted to authorize the issuance of a building permits for the erection of buildings on said Class 6 highway. And the town of Kingston has no ordinance to allow that process to happen. There's nothing in our ordinance that gives us a roadmap as how a property on a class, contiguous to a Class 6 road, we have no process by which to grant,
I understand that, I think. And I think the next process is if we're denied here, is that we go to the state, the courts. That's my understanding.
yeah, or you go to the Board of Selectmen or the Planning Board and say, can you put this ordinance in, or you put the ordinance in the next town meeting.
I've talked to Rich Lear and Don Briggs and everybody, and they go, yeah, it should happen, but that's why we...
But that's the law, it has nothing to do with...
Yeah, I understand, and they told us there was a process, and we want to do the process,
Okay.
whatever it is,
Okay.
you know.
Yeah, but that's why I'm trying to say to Kingston does not have it as part of its regulations. So that would have to change in order for it to work. In other words, through town meeting to pass an ordinance that allow that. And that may or may not happen, it depends. You gotta go to the planning board, you gotta do, I don't know what's happening.
There's a way
Anyways,
around it, there's a way around it.
There's always a way around everything.
There you go.
Okay, so at this point, I'm gonna ask anyone from the audience that would like to speak in support of this variance request to come forward. Anyone would like to speak in favor? Anyone like to speak in opposition to this request?
My name is Charles Anderson. I live at the end.
I'm gonna ask you to come up to the microphone, because we are live for the folks at home. And I'm sure and you can, there's one right over there, standing right there, if you want.
Yeah, that's good.
My name is Charles Anderson. I live at 31 Farm Road. I'm the only house on Class 6 road. My house was built in 1963 by Astor Day.
Okay,
So,
that's why you knew that date?
yeah, I've been there for a long time. As you can imagine, my dad bought the house in 1980. My sister and I bought it off him in 1989. So I've been tucked out in the middle of the woods for a while. I'm on a Class 6 road. I put 3 or 4 loads of gravel down each year to make it passable, mainly so the fire truck can get to my house. Right? Excess traffic always meets up the road every year. That's what happens. So, and I'm fine if people want to move forward with their things, but I think they have to bring the road standard up. And so that's the process that you're speaking with, or about rather. I think that standard has to be brought up to Class 5, because to be honest with you, I've suffered out there for the last 30 years, because it's nice and it's peaceful, but it's a lot of work. The road's a half-mile long, and it's gravel. You know, so it gets beat up. Snow's hard, winter's hard. The town stops at the pavement. That's where I bring my trash.
Yeah.
Right, so they don't come down to the house at all. They did when Astor built the house. So I already went through this whole process that he's going through now a handful of years back when I wanted some help from the town. You know what I mean? To get to my house.
Right.
So,
Now you'd have have some else from some neighbors.
There's a lot more vehicle traffic, is all I have to say about it, so, open-minded, that's pretty much all I have to say.
Thank you for coming by and taking the time to talk to us. Anyone else that would like to speak in opposition to this request? Okay. Yes, ma'am. Come right. If you can get to that microphone, that'd be great.
I'm just curious, we own the property that,
State your name, please.
oh,
and where you
sorry,
live.
Sandra Fox. We own the property on 15 Farm Road that is right beside Barry.
15 Farm Road?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm just curious about what Charles Anderson just said, that, you know, he's talking about roads being come up to standard, but I'm confused because you had already said, they said it's not a Class 5 road, so I didn't know if he was saying he wants to turn that road that we have 800 or 900 feet on, that we like the way it is, or sort of, turn into a Class 5 road. I didn't know if that was an issue here, if that's supposed to be brought
It's
up.
not an issue here tonight.
Okay, thank you.
It
That's
is
all.
not. What is tonight. Okay, my colleagues.
Well, from the advice we got from town planner, I think we have to just refer them back to the planning board.
Well, before we do that, he says that he closes by saying, as always with legal issues, I encourage the board to speak with counsel before taking action on this request. I don't know if have you had a chance to do that? Or?
No, and I can't do that on my own unless you guys direct me.
Oh, okay, so maybe if we vote to allow the chairman to address this with a town councilor,
I don't see a need to do that at this point in time, to be honest.
oh, okay, so
The road doesn't, the road that they're, where they want to build doesn't exist as a Class 6 road.
right,
So
and we
our
can't,
regs say we can't authorize building permits on Class 6 roads.
so regardless of whether we gave them a variance, I mean,
Exactly.
I get what you're saying here.
And depending where Mr. and Mrs. Phillips take this project, we may at a later point in time need to
Right.
work with them or through, I mean, I don't know, but I think at this point, I think it's pretty clear that we don't have the authority to allow them to pursue building a house on that property, because we can't, in Kingston, they cannot build. Even though the ZBA is the one that makes the exceptions, I think
Right,
it's
yeah,
pretty
I
clear.
understand, I didn't know if that was precluded us from even voting on the variance, or if.
No,
Okay.
I don't see that it does.
Okay, thank you.
But I would never, as your chairman, seek legal counsel without you
Okay.
guys authorizing me to do so.
Okay, yeah.
Or at least going to the select board and say, I need to do this, is that okay? It's fine.
In reading this letter, did you get a copy of this letter, by the way?
No, we'll give you one before you go.
You have to. And
Well,
it-
whether I
it's-
have to or not, I would still give you one. It's okay, Barry. Yeah, you give me your copy.
The inference is that you should go to the planning board. Now, I would talk to the planner directly and see how he would suggest you approach it so that you can get a building permit issued. And from the size of the lot, you shouldn't have any problem. And he may have a way that you can go about it, and you don't have to come for a variance or anything.
Well, if they upgrade the road, or if they put in place
Well,
a process by which the town can make exceptions in that type of situation through the warrant. In other words, an RSA for the town regulations that allow that to happen. Or you build a Class 6 road in there, Class 5 road. That would be another option.
If I did that, I'd put in a development. What the hell?
There you go.
You know,
I totally get
you
it.
know, that's in conservation. It's been in current use for 25 years.
We have
I'm trying to
plenty.
save the town. Okay, whatever you like. Whatever you like.
We're kind of hands-tied here, I think is what you're saying.
I understand. I understand. But I thought that the process would be, because you had some latitude, that, you know, that the planning board would give you that. You know, they said they don't have a process. If they don't have a process, how can I go to them? You know, I mean, this is my last resort, really. This is where you get a variance from a process.
That
You know,
doesn't
there's no
exist.
process, so how am I gonna, how can I really pursue it?
Well, that's the question is, have you read, I have not read this RSA, this is the first time I'm seeing this, so I haven't looked that up. It may be more specific as to the procedures.
It may be.
May not have to go to ZBA, it may just have to go to the selectmen, and then the selectmen will require the planning board or whoever, if that's what it's there.
Till tonight, when I got here and saw this, excuse me, I agreed with you. I felt the same way you did, that, all right, we could grant a variance. After I read this, there isn't the process for us to. Or at least that's the inference in the letter. I'll give you my
Remembering
copy.
that he's not an
Yeah,
attorney. He's
if you
not.
would, Larry, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Okay. Any more questions from the board? We haven't taken a vote yet either, so we haven't heard from everybody. You know, just saying.
I mean, can we even vote?
Well, we can,
we're
yeah, we
voting on
need to
a-
vote on whether or not to grant his variance for a permit.
We have to,
We have to vote on it.
Okay.
You don't have a right to.
well, we have to
What do you mean
vote
we don't have a right
because
to?
you
You
have
can with-
submitted an application.
Yeah.
We
and
have to go up or
we're gonna
down.
act on it, or
And-
perhaps you continue it to get more
And
information.
actually, we need that.
And it would be one of those things that if it was positive, would probably be contingent upon it
I mean, you
being
could-
legal.
You could withdraw it without prejudice and it dies right there, but if you want to vote from the zoning.
No, I think we need the vote.
I think you need the vote as well
I
to
think we need the
go
vote,
forward.
just in case it goes somewhere.
That's correct. I think that is correct.
I think that article's been in play in Kingston since '75.
What?
Is,
What has been in place?
The 200 foot
Okay,
frontage has been in play in Kingston since '75.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
yeah, it's been a while.
do we have to go through the
Times have
criteria?
changed.
I don't think so. I think you can either go up or down, straight vote.
I think
We
we
need
can,
to.
We lived on dirt roads,
I
on
know,
Symes
we
Road,
were
and
on a
second,
dirt
and, you know,
road.
it just
And
doesn't
actually-
make sense to us now,
Yeah.
but that's okay.
I know.
I was on a dirt road when I moved here too, and me and my neighbors jumped it, pitched in, and we paved the road. A lot of
Yeah.
places were done that way.
Yeah. We plowed it,
That's another thing.
filled the holes down here, but no. Yeah,
It was cheap 20 years ago.
yeah, I know, nobody wanted to, I know.
A lot cheaper than today,
Yeah,
although oil
the
prices
town
are
was
down.
gonna do it, and they never
All
did
right,
it.
boys and
all
girls.
right, I'll make a motion that we, deny this application
To the
In
terms of
accordance-
Article 3011.
in accordance with the letter received from Glenn Greenwood.
I think you need it up or down.
Well, yeah, he's giving a reason, which is always good.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, or you can say, due to the, procedures listed in
The
RSA
lack of procedures on RSA 431.
674.
No, I don't have read that, but
Right,
I just go by his letter.
okay. If you want to include, I mean, I think we should include the RSA,
Yeah, yeah.
of the state RSA that,
If that's giving,
It's that.
that's the reason, yeah.
because the question then becomes, does the zoning board here have the right to overturn the state RSA? Give an exception to the state RSA when we don't have anything here. We don't have anything here.
And we
Do I have a second?
Second.
No,
No,
you
I
made the
can't.
motion.
I mean, you could add it without prejudice or something like that.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jackie.
Question?
Yeah, this isn't signed.
It was a memo. He's got an initial. If you look up here, Barry, he's got an initial. It was from Glenn Greenwood,
TKC.
who's in the office here Mondays and Thursdays. You can come in and see him and I'll call. But he did initial it.
But the RSAs are online, I would definitely read it, to see what it actually says, he's synthesized it.
Okay, all those in favor of denying the request for a variance of 3011, please say aye.
I,
It's unanimous denial.
Yeah, I think
I'll send you a letter next week.
that's,
If you come up with something within 30 days and tell us otherwise, let us know.
We'll keep trying.
Thank you. All righty. Anything else to come before us this evening? Okay, all those, this meeting is adjourned at 7:50. Adam, say good night for us.